Hello and welcome to episode 39 of the Sandeman Street podcast, a podcast about Dundee and Dundee United from fans of both clubs. I'm Andrew, and as usual I'm joined by my regular co-host Jack. Jack, 2 weeks off, what have you been filling your time with?
I'm good, mate. How are you? No, I'm joking. I've been off for work, so I've been up to Dundee, seeing my family, and done a wee bit of hiking. But apart from that, not a lot, mate. You?
You were telling me before we started recording that you're feeling the effects of old age.
Oh, I am. My knee's giving us jip.
You've not even hit 30 yet, wait till you hit that age.
I know, mate. I'm not that far away from it. Only a few months.
You're not. What have I been doing? I've been in Liverpool watching Scotland, but other than that, not too much, mate. But if anyone's looking for a weekend away for a wee night out here and there, I would recommend Liverpool. We will get into the reason why we're here, and that's to speak about Dundee and United. So just before we begin that social media call, if you could give us a follow on the following. So on Twitter we are at SandemanSTPod. On Instagram we are at The Sandeman Street Pod. And on YouTube we are at The Sandeman Street Podcast. So if you could give us a follow, give us a subscribe, and comment on our videos, like the videos, all that jazz would be much appreciated as always. So moving on to the nitty gritty, Jack. United at Ibrox. They went into the game against Rangers undefeated against them this season, but unfortunately that record went. What of the match did you see? What was your thoughts on the 4-2 defeat on Saturday?
Obviously, I just watched the highlights. I wasn't making the trek through there. From what I heard, United started really positively. First 20-25 minutes, United seemed to be right in the game. And then a moment of madness from the goalkeeper resulted in the Rangers taking the lead. Balls taken, shots taken from out wide, and instead of the keeper tipping it over, he's palmed it right down into the Nadere's feet. So he just tapped it in. Absolutely shocking goalkeeping, if you ask me. But I think some people were defending him. I don't think it's defendable. But yeah, it's obviously you lose a goal, we end up going 2-0 down, get a goal back from good counter-attack, they then go 3-1 up, score another good goal from another good counter-attack. Our counter-attacking seems to have improved quite a lot in the last few weeks, and I was on show again on Saturday. We then hit the post, unfortunately to go level with them, and then Rangers are able to get a goal at the end to secure the win. Obviously, going to be a hard game against Rangers, always is. They're a very much improved team under Danny Rowe, and ultimately our chase for top six ended on Saturday.
I think the chase to the top six was quite a optimistic kind of thing. Obviously, you'll probably agree with that. But Falkirk winning as well, Motherwell, that's kind of done you in as well. But as for Rangers, I think you did touch on that they have improved a lot under Danny Rowe, especially since the January transfer window when they brought in 2 or 3 players. It seems to definitely improve them. And I don't know about you, but I would probably have them favourites for the league now. I think they seem to be the team in form. They seem to be the best team out of the 3. And I think, other than the fact that they've got to go to Celtic, they've probably got the most favourable split fixtures. And saying that, maybe Celtic do, but out of the 3 of them, I think Hearts have probably got the hardest ones. We're having to go to Motherwell, Celtic, and obviously their derby at Easter Road.
Yeah, I think Rangers are the favourites. I agree with you there. They just seem to be, as you've said, on a bit more of a form recently. Hearts dropped points at the weekend. Celtic haven't exactly been setting the head of the light, so I think it's Rangers for the taking, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I would agree. But back to United, 2 good goals, especially Fata's goal.
Yeah, mate, Fata's a very good player. he manages to cut inside, and he hits it, gets under Jack Butland, and obviously hits the back of the net. But he's a player that's improved a lot. You can see his abilities. He's probably our best player on his day. You could see why he was purchased for $5 million back in the day, and I think he's going to have a lot of suitors come the end of the season. There was talks in the paper the day of Goodwin wanting to keep him on, but honestly, I can see the Old Firm maybe moving for him. I think he's a very, very good player, and he seems to be able to turn it on when he needs to, and he's our main outlet, so I don't really see us having a chance of getting him back, but yeah, he did score a good goal against Rangers there.
He seems to have been a bit of a slow burner this season. Obviously, he's came good. At the beginning of the season, it was your Sapsfords and Dolcheks and stuff who seem to be grabbing the headlines, but he's certainly been the one who's came good towards the end of the season, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And maybe you never know. So obviously, you're saying that Goodwin wants him back. Whether he can get him permanently, I don't know, because it's probably going to cost quite a few, quite a substantial fee, and probably not within United's budget unless they're wanting to just sign one player in the summer, which I'd imagine that Jim Goodwin certainly got his eyes on plenty of targets. It might be a situation like though with Lucas Stevenson where you don't think you can get him back, but you do. You did obviously at the beginning of the season you didn't think you were getting him.
Yeah, very true. It also happened with Dylan Levitt as well. He left us, done excellent first season. We were like, there's no way he's coming back to us. And we ended up signing him on a permanent. So it can happen, it's possible. I see Troyes I think they're on their way to getting promoted from League 2 into League 1. So I don't think he's going to be able to break into the team there.
Super French, by the way.
Gracias. Yeah, I don't think he'll be able to break into the team there, and they'll probably want to get rid of him. That's what I could picture anyway. So he'll probably be available for transfer or another loan. Whether he chooses us, though, is a different question altogether.
Is it City that have got them?
Yeah.
Was there no some sort of like mental thing that happened with them in Man City where they signed somebody, Troy signed somebody, and he went to Girona. He played for Girona, and then he went to City. Was it the Brazilian winger? I'm pretty sure it was him.
Oh, maybe. I don't know actually. It was only the last couple of years ago.
Like that.
Yeah, only a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it wasn't long ago. It basically just used and abused this Troyes team to beat financial fair play. See, this obviously massively off subject, but this is why this multi-club systems. It's just cheating, isn't it? They've obviously signed for Troyes to avoid financial fair play for Man City or Girona. He's went on loan to Girona, and then he's had a good season for them and signed for Man City, and all three of them are within the same company, essentially.
Yeah, it is cheating, essentially. But if you've got the money, I don't think FIFA are going to step in and stop it from happening.
No, because they're the fucking biggest cheats of the lot of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but obviously you say that brings an end to United's hopes of getting into the top six, whether they were slim or not. Yous are probably just about out of trouble from the playoff spot, absolutely out of trouble for the automatic relegation spot. So what do you reckon's going to be Jim Goodwin's plan of attack for the last 6 games of the season? Obviously there'll be a lot of players that he's probably going to get rid of. There might be players that he still has to maybe see a few games to make his decision. What would be your plan of attack if you were him?
The absolute priority has got to be guaranteeing safety. I know we're basically there, but just to be mathematically safe is the absolute priority. From then on, I'd like to see us give the younger boys a chance. I don't know who we've got coming through. I know a few of our top prospects are away out on loan now, but I'd still like to see us give young boys a chance. They're not going to improve if they're sitting on the bench every week. So give these boys Clear Hardens, Owen Stirtons. I don't know if he's on loan or through the system, but get him on, give the youngsters on, and give players that, like you say, you're not sure if you want to sign or not. Get them on the pitch. Do that. Who knows what can happen? The youngsters could step up, and then you'll decide, actually, we don't need another striker, or we don't need another defender because these boys have stepped up. That's what my plan would be. I think Ogren wouldn't be very happy with that. I think he'd want us to finish as high as possible and not risk it, which is understandable. There's more money in it the higher you finish. But if you're looking towards next season, I think you've got to try and bleed in these youngsters and get them into the team, because if you're good enough, you're old enough ultimately. And it seems to be recently that that's not been the case with United. So yeah, that would be my plan of attack. But knowing Goodwin, that's probably not what's going to happen.
Well, thinking about Jim Goodwin, and I mean, obviously, this is coming from someone who doesn't pay a lot of attention to United and the intricacies of their team selection every week and all that sort of thing. It seems like he's not got the greatest of track records when it comes to breeding in young players. I might be wrong, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of young players coming in and sustaining a first team place under him in his tenure at United. Is that fair?
Very much so. I don't think he's actually brought through any youngsters that have been a permanent fixture in the first team. He's brought through Owen Stirton, who's getting a bit part role. Cleel Harden, he's done it as well with him. He comes in, he plays really well, and then gets dropped the next game. And they're honestly maybe the only two I can think of that are, this season anyway, that have broken into the team. You have boys like Chrissy Mockery from previous years and whatnot, who never fully broke through either. He obviously tried to give them a game in the Championship, but he never really stuck that through either. So, yeah, I feel like he doesn't like giving youth that much of a chance. I think he'd rather sign boys from abroad and hope they can be more ready-made than the youngsters. I don't feel like Jim Goodwin's much of a developmental coach. I think he's more on the tactical side, and you've seen that this season. I don't think you can say many of the players have improved under him. Tactically, we seem to have changed the gear slightly, and in the last few games, we seem to be a bit more better on the ball and getting some decent results, playing better despite some of the results in the end, aka the Dundee game, where we were the better team. But yeah, I think that's Goodwin's game is all the tactical stuff, the discipline, whereas I don't think he's catered towards that development side, which you need if you want to bring through these youngsters.
And I know that you've been critical of Jim Goodwin and you've voiced your opinion that you probably want him to lose his job, but how is that? Obviously, we've not spoken about that for a few weeks. We've had a week off, and there's been a few good results before the weekend. Are you still in that camp? Are you still in the camp that you would like to see a change of manager?
I thought I said this a couple of weeks ago. I thought that it depended how these fixtures played out. We've started to see an uptick in performances over the last few weeks, and if that's a system starting to click in, obviously defensively we're still very frail and we're conceding goals we shouldn't be conceding, but we are seeming to be a bit better on the front foot now, a bit more on the front foot, a bit better attacking wise. If we can keep this up and we keep picking up performances and getting good results, then I think you can give him a chance. Like, he's obviously shown enough in the last few games that he's capable of making a change and making the team play better. A bit little too late this season, but if the boys can stick in, we'll keep the same core of players, sign players in the summer who can complement the core players that we'll have at the team, then honestly, I'm not against it. Him staying, but he needs to prove that he can do it in the split fixtures, because if not, I think he's got to go. the trajectory says that he is improving. So we'll wait and see. But currently, no, I would get rid. But if performances improve, then you can stay.
And just finally, before we move on to a different subject, what's your thoughts on the? I know you touched on it when you were summarising the match, but new goalie required for next season?
Absolutely, mate. His stats are worse than Kucherenko's. So I've been looking at stats recently, and his stats are worse than Kucherenko's. He's the worst goal in the league, I think, stats-wise. I don't know why he doesn't get... I don't know how he gets a game ahead of Dave Richards. I think Dave Richards is the best keeper we've had this season. And he's actually on par with John McCracken, believe it or not, Dave Richards. So...
God, it must be shite then.
Yeah, but compared to the other two we've had, he's the world beater. But yeah,
well,
I think a new keeper's definitely required.
It just seems mad to me now. Obviously, the boy Richards, he was not the best, not the worst either. But it's mad to me how you could have 3 goalies in a season and none of them are good.
Is it a coaching issue then, do you think?
Well, it's either a recruitment issue or a coaching issue. Now,
well, I looked at the stats when...
Is it Paul Mathers who's your goalie coach?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Was the boy that was on loan for Luton for 2 years in a row as bad as this?
No.
So you could argue that it isn't a coaching issue if the goalies previously under his tenure as goalie coach haven't been as bad as this season. It might just be a poor recruitment.
I don't think we've had this Paul Mathers for a while, like a long time though. I think we've only had him for a year or two. So Jack Watton would have been under him, but he might have already been established in terms of how he was playing and whatnot. And I think this season we've tried to punch the ball a lot more, and that's obviously getting coached into them, because last year Dave Richards never punched the ball, and he's punching the ball this season, so they must be getting coached into punching the ball, and that is leading to errors. So it could be a coaching issue, but the recruitment hasn't been good enough either, so it's probably a bit of both.
And what were you going to say about the stats there?
I was going to say that on terms of recruitment, Kucherenko, when we signed him, I think he was ranked as the second worst keeper in the Ukrainian Premier League based on stats. Obviously, stats aren't everything, but I don't know why we're moving for a boy who's ranked as the second worst keeper in the league, based on data. That baffles me, to be honest. I think it was because he was young and foreign. We're like, we'll make a move for him, and that clearly never worked out. So that's obviously an issue there.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens next season, because, I mean, anything could happen in football and nothing would surprise me, but if I was to stick a pound bet on for who's going to be United's manager at the beginning of next season, I would put Jim Goodwin on. I don't think he's done that bad a job that the owners would deem him unsuitable for that position. Obviously everybody's got their opinion, and United supporters will certainly feel like they've underachieved this season, but are the owners going to make a drastic change when he's finished? He's probably going to finish 7th. It's a Falkirk good season away from being in the top 6.
Very true.
I know that they've been very inconsistent this season, United, but they had a couple of strong performances in Europe. They didn't do too well in the Cups, obviously. Steady enough in the league. Obviously, they want to do better. They want to get themselves into that top 6, but I don't think it's the worst season in the world. It is obviously disappointing, but I don't think it's the worst season in the world. But we'll move on to Dundee's defeat at home to Celtic yesterday. Now, when I was bringing you in to speak about the United game against Rangers, I mentioned that a record went in terms of United had lost to Rangers this season, and that record went. Now, a bit more of an impressive record went that Celtic hadn't left the city of Dundee this season without tasting defeat. Now, that record was always going to go yesterday. I feel like Celtic are at that stage of the season where even if they are pish, which I think they are, they grind out a result. And I think the experience of their side, even though it's not the greatest side, showed yesterday. I don't know how much you've seen of it. I would imagine that you've seen the highlights.
Yeah, I've seen the highlights, and I didn't think Dundee were up to much. I thought they didn't create anything. Looking at the highlights, all they created was the penalty chance. Obviously, you were there and you would have known different, but that's from what I've seen. It looked like Celtic were by far the better team.
Yeah, so like obviously I'll give you my summary as somebody who was obviously at the match. I felt in the first half Dundee didn't turn up. Now that was obviously their own fault, but as well as being their own fault, it was also Celtic were pretty good, especially in maybe the opening 20 minutes. I thought Dundee came into it a wee bit more in the last 25 minutes of the first half, but I turned around to my pal who go to the match when quite early on in the game and said they're at it. That was at 0-0. They get their goal, which is poor. It's poor defending to begin with, letting the cross come into the box. It's poor defending to let that Chavan Chara or whatever his name is take a touch and get his shot away. John McCracken has to do better. I know it's right. I know it's at him, but he needs to do what I've been saying consistently all season. He's not going to be able to hold it. He needs to put it wide of the goal, and he puts it right into the path of two on-rushing Celtic players who are able to then put the ball into the back of the net. Whether it was Negrin's goal or whether it was Yang's goal, doesn't matter. It's right into both of their paths, and it's an easy enough finish in the end. I thought they came into the game a bit more, as I say, towards the end of the first half, Dundee, without really creating anything. But the second half, they started off well. I thought for the first 20 minutes of the second half, they were probably the better team. Obviously, get their equaliser. A couple of some of the decisions for that. Stephen McLean is fucking useless. For years and years and years now, every time we've had him, he's been useless. And I'm not for 1 second saying that when he referees Dundee matches, he wants Dundee to lose. I'm not saying that, but it's like somebody needs to be assassinated for him to give Dundee a penalty. Got a penalty against United in the league last season at Dens, I think it was, where it was a handball from Kevin Holt. Now, it was one of the ones where it was difficult to spot, but he has to go to the monitor to give that, which is fair enough on that day. But yesterday, you've obviously seen the penalty. I mean, it's the most stonewall penalty you'll ever see in your life. And to make matters even worse, that fucking arsehole Douglas Ross is on the South Stand side. He's pretty much got the same view as me. My view of Dens is about in line, maybe just in between the penalty spot and the 18-yard line at the Bob Shankly side of the stadium. I'm about 4 rows back, and I could see it clear as day it was handball. Now, I'm sitting pretty much right behind Douglas Ross. How he never seen that is beyond me. Beyond me. Now, Stephen McLean's maybe looking through bodies, but between the two of them, they have to give that. How it goes to VAR, I mean, it was one of the quickest VAR checks I've seen all season. Really, really poor. And just before that, there was a back pass. I think it was Scales goes to pass the ball back to the keeper, and Sinisalo, I think his name is, and he goes to pass it back. Simon Murray goes to block the pass and nicks Simon Murray's foot, goes back to the goal and he picks it up. I don't know if that slight touch from Simon Murray means that it's no longer a back pass. Surely not. Surely not. Like, it's not an intentional pass from Simon Murray, if you get what I'm saying. Like, I would get it if Liam Scales is about to hit the ball and Simon Murray toes it away and it goes rolling back to the keeper and the keeper picks it up. But it's took a slight deflection off him and went back. And that's denying Dundee a really good opportunity with an indirect free kick. Baffling. Dundee then, after their good spell, opening 20 minutes of the second half, really fell out of the game. They were really, really struggling to get the ball off Celtic, and inevitably the goal comes with 10-15 minutes to go. On another day, you probably get a foul for Iheanacho's push on Ashley. I think Dundee players are so naive, they should be all around the referee, putting loads of pressure on to give that decision. But they're too nice, and they just accept it. Now, even if the referee doesn't give it, if you're all around the referee making a point and causing a situation, the VAR are more inclined to look at it, in my opinion. They're thinking, oh, there's something going on here. And you can quite clearly see that he's got two hands on him. Now, anywhere else on the pitch, a defender does that to a striker, it's a free kick. So I don't understand how one's the same and one's not, but it seems to be the way in football these days. Ryan Ashley then gets sent off. I don't really have too many complaints about it. I would have liked to have seen the red card given for the Celtic player for the penalty. I think if you're blocking a ball 6 yards out on its way to goal with your hand, yeah, you're denying a goal scoring opportunity, I'd say so. But he doesn't even get booked, which is mystifying to me. And Celtic see out the game fairly comfortably. So, all in all, I think probably got what they deserved yesterday. It is a poor Celtic team, but they did what they needed to do and they got the 3 points. And we'll bring you in to see if there's anything that you'd like to add on that.
I'd never seen what you were complaining about regards to like hands on the player and whatnot. That wasn't in the highlights. For the penalty, I agree. It's a stonewaller. I think it's pretty obvious. I think the only thing they're probably questioning is if the arm was in a natural position or not, which it wasn't. It's up way by his side, and it strikes him. Another thing I could see is the ball wasn't really heading towards goal. I think it was going over. But regardless, it's still heading towards goal, and so it's a penalty. Should have been a booking. A yellow card, I think, is probably fair. As for the Ashley Red, I think it's a red card. I don't see any complaints with that. He brings him down when he's running through on goal, and he's quite close to goal as well. So, yeah, I think overall, from what I've seen in the highlights, Dundee weren't really at it. Celtic looked well up for it. A lot of sloppy passing from Dundee at the start, I noticed. Gave the ball away quite a lot. Just poor passing decisions, poor touches, and that ultimately cost them. But it was always going to be a tough game. Celtic were going to be up for it, considering what happened at United the week before, or a couple of weeks before. So, yeah, Dundee still with a chance of getting relegated. Do you think that'll happen?
I think a lot of it rides on the fact that they're playing Kilmarnock on Saturday. So, obviously, the last 2 games they've lost, Kilmarnock won a game. They got beat on Saturday from Hibs. But Dundee's, they were at Tynecastle, lost by a goal. Play Celtic this week, lost by a goal. Obviously, it feels like a massively extended period of time because of the international break. But I think what's going to be key is that the last 6 games now for Dundee, obviously Saturday and then the split, are against teams that are rimmed them, against teams that are in and around their position in the league. Now, I'd rather be at this moment in time, I'd rather be in Dundee's position than I'd be in Kilmarnock's position. I think we're 5 points ahead of them at the moment, 32 points to 27, I think. And I heard a stat from one of the guys on the Twa Teams podcast that Dundee haven't lost a game against a team in the bottom 6 since the beginning of December or something like that. So when it comes to playing against teams around about us, we're not too bad. We're picking up points, and I think if Dundee were to pick up 7 points for the last 6 games, they'll probably be alright. You've got to think that if you're picking 7 points up, you're going to be on 39 by the end of the season. Are Kilmarnock, who are currently in the second bottom position, are they going to pick up 12 points between now and the end of the season? I do think Dundee have enough about them to avoid finishing 11th. It is Dundee Football Club, so anything's possible. But I do think they have probably just about got enough to finish. But the thing is that I know that Kilmarnock have improved since the end of January when they've brought in boys like Finlay Curtis and whatnot, but every time I've seen them this season, they've been shite. So it feels like you shouldn't be worried about them, because especially the game in the Scottish Cup, well, to be fair, the game at Dens and between Christmas and New Year. But the game in the Scottish Cup, Dundee fucking murdered them. And you just feel like surely they've got to they've got to have enough against them. I think Aberdeen are a sinking ship. Now Dundee's record against Aberdeen is abysmal, so they're due to come to Dens. So you'd like to hope that we'd be able to have enough about us to beat them at Dens, especially given the fact that we beat them at Pittodrie a few weeks ago. But our record against them isn't great. But as I say, they are a bit of a sinking ship. St Mirren obviously got the win on Saturday, but I think Dundee are probably better than them. I know it's a massively roundabout answer, very political, but I do think that Dundee have probably just about enough to keep themselves out of trouble. But I'm just hoping that the derby after the split is scheduled early and not late, just in case we are in a wee bit of bother.
Fair enough. I think, like you say, Aberdeen are a sinking ship. They're really struggling just now, and they could get drawn right into that relegation zone. And I think Dundee have got enough about them to be able to stay up. I think Stephen Presley's done a good enough job. You've got good enough players where you'll probably get a result of Killie. And if you do that, you're in a great shout of staying up and not being dragged into that dogfight.
Yeah, I think if we win on Saturday, that puts us 8 points ahead of Kilmarnock with 15 to play for. I think if we win on Saturday, we're basically there. I can't see what us losing an 8 point deficit against 5 teams that we've beaten every one of them this season.
Yeah, fair.
It's going to be a tough way back for Kilmarnock to catch us. Obviously, they've got Aberdeen and St Mirren to catch as well, but for them to catch us with 8 points of a gap, they've still got to come to Dens, and there's only 5 games to play for 15 points, would be a tough ask, to be honest with you. Yeah, we'll just cover the score predictions from the weekend, Jack. Now, it was quite a good weekend for both of us, actually. We both picked up a few points. The Dundee Celtic game obviously finished 2-1 to Celtic. We both went for 2-1 Celtic, so we both picked up 2 points there. And the United game Ibrox against Rangers finished 4-2 to Rangers. I went 3-1 Rangers, you went 1-0 United, so I picked up a point from that. So after that, which was game week 27 in that challenge, I'm currently sitting on 26 points to your 24. We'll move on though and cover the rest of the card. I've touched on a few of the fixtures from the weekend. The Saturday games were Hibs 3, Kilmarnock 0, Motherwell Galacticos 2, Falkirk 3, Rangers 4, Dundee United 2, and St Mirren 2, Aberdeen 0. And on Super Sunday it was Livingston 2, Hearts 2, and Dundee 1, Celtic 2. So a lot of 2s there. But we'll move on from that to a game that we've pretty much covered already, Jack, so there's not really too much else to say. Dundee on Saturday are headed to Rugby Park for the 3rd time this season to play against Kilmarnock. What are your thoughts on that? Obviously, we'll have touched on that, but what are your thoughts from that game in the lead up to it?
I think Killie are a very hot and cold team as of recently. They've picked up wins against teams they shouldn't be beaten. They've lost against teams they should be beaten. They've got a couple of pretty good players. They've got Tyrese John-Jules, ex-Arsenal boy, scored about 8 goals for them this season. He's a good player. United were linked to him earlier in the year. And they've got Finlay Curtis, who got called up for the Scotland squad. So they clearly have ability to threaten teams. Against United, they're always unplayable, so obviously I'm taking that with a bit of bias on that side, but they are capable of beating a team. And Dundee against Celtic, I don't think we're up to it. I don't think we were up to it against United either. But knowing Dundee and knowing what they've been like this season, I feel like they'll get a result out of this. They are a team where if they're up for it and they're willing to attack, then they're capable of putting teams to the sword, I feel like. They've got a couple of very good players out in the wing, obviously Ugan and Congreve, both very good players, and I think they can threaten Kelly a lot because Kelly's defence, feel like, is very suspect. Their goalkeepers aren't great. Kilroos is obviously there now, and despite him obviously not being there for that long, he has made some good saves. So, yeah, I think it's a game Dundee can win, and I think you should be expecting to win that as well.
Oh, if we're expected to win, that could never go well. You'll have to cast your eyes back to the derby at Dens a few weeks ago for that. That's a great example of Dundee expected to win and shitting the bed. No, but I think that cautiously optimistic is what I'd probably say. I think if you're a Kilmarnock fan, you'd probably say that they're due a win against Dundee because they haven't this season. But if you're a Dundee fan, you're looking at the 3 games previous and you're thinking, we played them very early on in the season with a team effectively full of misfits, really, because we were so throwing boys together and hoping it worked at that stage of the season, and we'll come away with a 0-0 draw. We'll get them back to Dens, go 1-0 down, but really it was a very good performance from Dundee that night. They win 2-1, and then they win 2-1 in the Scottish Cup as well, so hopeful. But we'll move on to United. Now, United aren't involved in the title race, Jack, so Livingston will probably not be fucking brilliant like that against other teams that are in the title race, so are you confident that you'll not be the first team to lose to them since August?
I hope so. I was looking at their stats, and I think the last 5 games they've drawn 4 of them, which include Hearts, Rangers and Hibs. So they've obviously got the ability to draw against teams and get points and put in good performances. But let's be honest, they've not been great this year. I think Johnny Russell's due back for this game. He's been missing in action the last few weeks with injury, so it'll be good to see him get on if he gets on. I think we should have too much quality for them. We beat them earlier on in the season. We did draw with them at the start of the season, but I feel like the way United are playing just now, we should be able to get a good performance against them at home and hopefully score 2 or 3, and that will really help us, just mathematically help us in the relegation fight.
Yeah, I think United will probably be okay in this one. I can't see Livingston coming to Paradise and taking very much. And obviously you're saying that they have picked up a few points recently against some of the sides towards the top of the league, but they can't win a match, they can't see out a game, and I think that United will probably have a bit too much of them given the form that they've been in the past few games, obviously taking away that Rangers game. But we will get your score predictions now, Jack. So first of all, United against Livingston, what's your score prediction for that game?
I'm going to go 3-1 United.
Interesting.
Because I don't trust for goalies.
And for the Kilmarnock against Dundee game, what are you reckoning?
I'm going to go 2-0 Dundee.
2-0 Dundee, okay. And if you give me just a second, I'll write that down and then tell you what I have done. Okay, so for the United against Livingston game, I've went 2-1 United, and I've went 2-2 Kilmarnock against Dundee.
Okay.
So we'll get that added onto the spreadsheet as soon as possible. We'll just briefly touch on, Jack, before we move on to anything else, the 2 Scotland games last week that obviously we weren't here to cover. 1-0 defeats against Japan and against the Ivory Coast, or Côte d'Ivoire, as I was told it was, not Côte d'Ivory. Game against Japan was a bit flat. I thought they played a bit better against Ivory Coast down in Liverpool. What I do think though is, and I don't know if you'll agree with this given you probably don't watch Scotland as much as I do and as regularly as I do, I think if we don't have Ben Doak in our side obviously because he's injured at the moment, or just coming back from injury at the moment, that the 3-5-2 or whatever you want to call it system far suits us and get the width from our full-backs. I think when we're playing with Ben Doak, we're obviously better off going 4 at the back because it allows him to play wide. But when we're doing that, we've basically got to forfeit one of our centre midfielders to go out and do a doggy shift on the left hand side, and it's usually John McGinn. John McGinn's obviously a capable footballer and can do that role, but it isn't his best position on the pitch. And I think when Ben Doak's not there, it's pointless playing that formation, because you're having to shoehorn 2 central midfielders onto each wing, and you're playing with virtually no width because naturally they want to come inside. And I thought when we played against Ivory Coast in Liverpool and he went to the 3 and he gets Robertson and it was Ross McCrory up the pitch supplying your width, we looked far more comfortable. And I honestly didn't think we were that bad in either game, in all honesty. We're always going to struggle to score goals. We've not got any good strikers. I say not good, it's probably harsh, but I mean in terms of the level that we're trying to and aspiring to get to, I think you're going to get honest, hard-working shifts out of Che Adams, Lyndon Dykes, George Hurst, Lawrence Shanklin, whoever it is. You're going to get a decent, hard-working graft out of any of them. But the quality from them, and really the quality behind them, isn't great. We've got good centre midfielders, McTominay, McGinn, Billy Gilmore. Maybe you could argue McTominay is creative, but to me at Napoli, the strength that he has seems to be the late man run, getting into the box, late man run, scoring goals. It's not really getting on the ball and making creative passes and going by 2 or 3 men and slipping someone in. John McGinn's maybe slightly more towards that, and Ryan Christie would try and be that, but he's fucking shite. So he's not going to be that. So yeah, we're always going to struggle to score goals. I think the reaction to the Japan defeat was over the top. You only have to look at their next game. They got Wembley and win 1-0 as well. They're nae mugs. They've qualified for every World Cup I could ever remember. They've got a good team. And the Ivory Coast are a decent enough team as well. I think they got to the semi-finals of the African Cup of Nations. Their first World Cup in 8 years, but they've semi-regularly qualify for World Cups. A lot of good players playing at a good level, and they're technically probably better than us. But after that big monologue from me, I do think that the performances weren't as bad as what a lot of people were making out. I thought we played half decent, especially down in Liverpool, without creating too much. I wasn't one of these people who were having a massive uproar because 3 months before the World Cup Steve Clarke wasn't totally tearing up his squad and calling up loads of uncapped players to see what they're like before the World Cup. I thought that was a totally ludicrous and madness suggestion to do, especially with Steve Clarke. He's never going to do it anyway, but when you've got a team full of boys who have qualified you for a World Cup, why would you rip all that up for the sake of a friendly? Like, you could do that after the World Cup. But at the moment, we're trying to find our best 11 going into it. But when he had the players he had in Liverpool, he's bringing on boys like Kenny McLean in the second half. Like, you know what Kenny McLean's all about. Bring Lennon Miller on. Like, when they're in the squad, Andy Irving's another one. When they're in the squad, put them on. He gave Finlay Curtis 5 minutes at the end of the Japan game. Get him on. Like, give the boys in the squad a chance at least. But after that big monologue, have you got anything that you would like to
add? Not really. You know me, I don't really watch the games, mate. I did watch some of the highlights of the Japan game, and I watched a tiny bit of the Ivory Coast game. I thought, from what I've seen of the Ivory Coast game, I thought Scotland looked dead sloppy. But you also did see the technical quality of Ivory Coast, and it is a bit of a kind of a reminder for Scotland fans that this team, finished in the quarterfinals of AFCON. We're coming up against the now champions of AFCON. So this Morocco team's going to be probably a step above Ivory Coast. And I don't think we have the ability, we've got the individual ability and we've got some very good players. I don't think we have as a round quality team as what Morocco do or Ivory Coast did. And so I think that's a reminder for Steve Clarke that he's got to be a bit wary of Morocco. But no, I've not got really anything to add. I think we should have put Lennon Miller and that on. If he's there, use him, see what he's like at that level. And 5 minutes for Finlay Curtis isn't really going to do much for him, is it? So he should have probably been on earlier. But no, apart from that, mate, I've not got really much to add.
You don't think that we as a country and a lot of our fans, especially the ones on Twitter and stuff, I'm not saying that the players or the manager think this way because they won't, but do you not think that our media and our fans underestimate the teams that we play against and overestimate ourselves? Like, we're playing against Japan, who very, very, very rarely don't get out the group at the World Cup. I'm pretty sure they've got out the group at the last 2 or 3 World Cups, right? You're playing against Ivory Coast, who quarterfinals or whatever the AFCON, they've got full of technically good players, boys that have went for big transfer fees. Now we have as well, but as you rightly said, we're coming up against Morocco, who, whether you like it or not, have been named as the champions of Africa. Nae mugs, semi-finalists at the last World Cup, full of players playing at the top level of European football. And you hear some people speaking about them like they're just going to be an absolute walkover. You're like, what planet are you living on? And even Haiti will be nae mugs.
No, not at all. They're going to be proficient players, mate. They'll be good technical players. They may not have the population size of these Moroccos or whatever. I don't know what the population is, but they will be a decent team, mate. And I think we're going to go into that game underestimating how good they'll be. I think we obviously should beat them. They're not going to have players near the quality of us. They'll probably have a couple, but I think they're going to turn up, mate, and they're going to get that game. It's not going to be a walkover. Absolutely not. And I think people are expecting that.
Well, especially when you look at the fact that it's the first game, and everybody's basically told us if we didn't win that game, we're fucked. So there's going to be loads of pressure on it. And you know what Scotland are like at World Cups. You can go back to the dawn of time to see all the fucking disaster stories that Scotland have had at World Cups, with better teams than they've got just now, by the way. So people have got to have a bit of a reality check, in all honesty. I do think that there's a massive overreaction when it comes to Scotland sometimes. Like driving back from the Japan game, and I actually had to turn the radio off about 5 minutes into the journey because it was that negative and yeah, we've got beat, yeah, we probably could have done better, yeah, we could create more chances, but they're speaking like we've just been beat 1-0 off Liechtenstein or something like that. Like, it's not the end of the world. But
absolutely not. I think, mate, honestly, I think Japan can make the quarters of this World Cup. That's
actually what I think it was Tom English, he said the better what is the word I'm looking for here, but whatever, the reality check here in terms of Japan's aim and Japan's ambition is quarterfinals. Scotland's aim is to get out the group. So there's a difference there already, isn't there?
I'm just looking at Japan's fixtures here, mate. So they beat England, they beat us, they beat Bolivia, they beat Ghana, and they beat Brazil. That's the last 5 games.
Well, there you go then.
And people are taking that as a bad result. They're clearly a good team.
They are a good team, mate. The boy Matoma's a great player.
Yeah.
I know that he's one player, but he'd go into our team and he'd be a massive welcome addition to our team in terms of creativity.
Absolutely.
But, like I said, if we've got Ben Doak fit, then I think that one of the friendly games before the World Cup, whether it's Curacao or whether it's the Bolivia game they're expected to play in New Jersey, you play Ben Doak right, Finlay Curtis left, McTominay in behind a striker, and see how that works. And if it doesn't work, you can go back to playing John McGinn on the left-hand side with Ben Doak, or Ben Doak comes out the team and you go 3 at the back. Like, there is 2 more games to not experiment as such, but like try something different for a half. But at the end of the day, Jack, if we lose every single friendly, because our friendly record under Steve Clarke is abysmal, but we've qualified for 3 tournaments.
Yeah, true, that's where it matters ultimately.
So, if we were losing all our qualifying games but winning loads of friendlies, everybody would still be moaning.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that Steve Clarke can't win. I just think that he's obviously probably the best Scotland manager of my lifetime. His stats suggest he's the best Scotland manager ever. He's one of the people that people are going to appreciate him when he's not there. And I actually think that I would love him to stay on past the World Cup, but I think almost for himself he should just leave, because he's not going to get any more credit if he stays on and does well still.
Yeah.
But,
true. It can only get worse, really.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on to the Futbology Challenge. Now, Jack, you had a game, you've got 3 points, and you're now 2 points off the target I set you.
Oof. I'm in with a chance.
We'll quickly touch on that game and you can give us your thoughts on that. So, your game was from Saturday, April the 6th, 2013. It was Dundee United against Aberdeen, a 1-0 win for United in front of 8,577. The managers that day were Jackie McNamara and Craig Brown. For United, their starting 11: Chersniak, Dillon, Douglas, Suter, Watson, Flood, Gardine, Gold, Miller, Rankin and Daly. And on the bench, Anderson, Johnston, Tornstrand, Mackay-Stephen, Ryan, Boulding and Dow. For Aberdeen, they went with Langfield, Jack, Anderson, Naismith, Reynolds, Shaughnessy, Ray, McGinn, Hayes, Vernon and McGuinness. And on the bench, Twardzik, Lowe, Milsom, Pollitt, Hughes, Fallon and Smith. And the scorer was Rory Boulding on the 90th minute. What is your memories of that game, Jack? I think you touched on that in one of your monthly top 5s, I think.
Yeah, I think so. A game I actually remember. It was quite an even affair at the start, and United created a lot of chances. And Clangers, Jamie Langfield, had one of the best games of his life. It was unbelievable, some of the savings he was making. And then we bring on Rory Bolden, who I think honestly could have been his debut, and was only signed him a few weeks previous on a free transfer. I think it was a free agent. We bring him in, and he comes off the bench, finds himself in a bit of space in the 90th minute, and scores. And it was absolute bedlam, mate. Absolute bedlam. Guaranteed us top 6. There was a fight with Aberdeen, Killie and us to get top 6, and that goal guaranteed us top 6 football. And it was absolutely crazy. So yeah, that was a great memory for me. And Rory Bolden became a wee folk legend at United.
Well, yourself and Martin both had that same game. As for myself, I had a game from Saturday, April the 6th, 2024. Dundee 2, Motherwell 3 in front of 5,924. The managers were Tony Docherty and Stuart Kettlewell, and the lineups were as follows: for Dundee: McCracken, Donnelly, McGee; Portales, Shaughnessy, Cameron; Silla, Bakayoko, Costello, McCowan and Tiffany. And on the bench, Legsdons, Sharp, Astley, Dodson, Boateng, Robertson, Mellon, Mutale and Robinson. For Motherwell, they went with Kelly, McGinn, Blaney, Casey, Zvardovkovic, Halliday, Spittle, Gent, Devine, Bear and Vale. And on the bench, Oxborough, Shaw, Ross, Mugabe, Nicholson, Butcher, O'Donnell, Miller and Mbaye. The scorers were McGee 36, McCowan 70, Gent 79, Bear 81 and Mbaye 90. Now, this game was just a disaster from start to finish, in all honesty. Dundee were cruising, 70 minutes in, 2-0 up. McCowan scored directly from a corner actually that day. And then Motherwell, in the space of 11 to 15 minutes, scored 3 goals. It was just one of the ones where you could see it happening in front of your eyes, but you can't actually believe it's happening in front of your eyes. And it was just a complete and utter disaster. Defenders doing things that they hadn't been doing all season, letting boys run in behind them, and Motherwell just, as soon as they got their first one, you knew they were getting the next two, put it that way. So yeah, that leaves the league table looking like it does on screen. If you're listening, Martin after 34 games is on 41 points, I'm on 40, and Jack is on 23. Finally, we will finish off with our latest edition, the April edition of the monthly top 5. It was myself to pick the subject this week. With 3 subjects left to pick, I have went with underwhelming signings. Now this was a particularly tricky one, I thought. It took quite a bit of research. Usually a lot of them come quite quickly, but I've done a wee bit of research and I've come up with 5 answers. But Jack, I'll let you go first, so you can go with your number 5, please.
Okay, so my number 5 is Osman Sow. Previously at Hearts, and he done a very good job for them. Scored a lot of goals, got a big move to China for a few million quid. Ended up moving to MK Dons, and we signed him in the Championship. And I thought he was going to tear it up, and he was an absolute donkey cart. He was slow. His touch was terrible. It took him about 30 games to score his first goal. Well, that's probably a lie, actually. Probably 15 odd games to score his first goal. And, it was just very disappointing with all the hype that he had when we signed him and the buzz going around the place when we were like, oh my God, we're going to sign Osman Sow. And that, looking back at it now, that's quite funny to think about. So number 5, Osman Sow.
Okay. For mine, number 5 is, it's probably a wee bit harsh, but mine's just Stephen Cocker. Now obviously, when he signed for Dundee, it was a big name in terms of played for Spurs, played for Liverpool, played for England, played at the Olympics for Team GB. But he was coming to Dundee because he had issues, and he was, for the first maybe half a season he was there, he was decent, and he'd signed an 18-month contract, so you're thinking to take it on to next season. Hopefully he's over a lot of the stuff that was hindering his life in general, not just his football career. Started off the next season, played a game or two. I think McCann fell out with him, and then he was released. So for all the hype and the media attention we got for signing Stephen Cocker, it was a bit of a damp squib because he wasn't there very long, and then he was away again. So yeah, I went for him, but I do think it's a wee bit harsh. Number 4 for yourself, Jack.
Number 4, I went with the one and only Mark Baraghetti. Came in on the cusp of the Australian national team, and I thought, well, he must be a pretty good goalie if he's on the cusp of the Australia team. Like, Australia are quite a good footballing country, and he came in, and the rest is history, so they say. He was absolutely terrible. Worst goalie I've ever seen in my life. Worse than Lewis Vick. Worse than the lot. So yeah, I mean, he probably could have went higher, but I don't want to give him that any more time than that, really. So Mark Baraghetti, number 4.
Okay. For me, number 4 is very niche, and a lot of Dundee fans who listen will probably not even remember him. But when I was looking through, because I wanted to do this based on players that I've seen, so when I was looking through the seasons that I have watched Dundee, it brought back a few memories, and I was pretty young at the time, but his name's Kevin Smith. Now, he did end up at United, actually, later down the line. Wraith Rovers and a few other teams, Bonnyrigg Rose, Cowdenbeath, but he started off his career at Sunderland, I think, and we did get him on loan from them. Now, the reason why I feel like it was underwhelming was because there was like a 6-month build-up into us signing him. And it was Alec Ray that signed him. And I think Alec Ray knew him from his time at Sunderland. And we were trying to get him in the summer, and it didn't happen. And then it came round to the January transfer window, and all the rumours started up again, and we eventually did get him. And he came and he played like 2 or 3 minutes, and that was it. 2 or 3 minutes is probably not true, but he played a handful of games, don't think he even scored, and then he was way back to Sunderland again, I think early. So that's my number 4, Kevin Smith. Number 3, Jack.
Number 3, I've went with Guy Demel. Played a long time in English Prem. Obviously joined us in that ill-fated relegation year. Came in, right, okay, we've signed a right back. Played in the Prem for about 10 years consistently for West Ham, who are not a shit team really. Must be good. Came in and he was slow as death. He was so slow. He got burned every time it was a 1-on-1. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. How this guy who managed to make it 10 years in the Prem blew my mind. Obviously, he must have been, 33 at the time he joined us. His legs had probably gone quite a bit. But yeah, I couldn't believe a boy from the Prem was so poor and so slow. So number 3 for me, Guy Demel.
Okay. For me, number 3 is Luka Tankulic. Now, the reason why I put him in it is because he came in as a trialist just after we'd won the championship in 2014 and played, I think, a couple of bounce games on a pre-season trip in Europe someplace, I think maybe Hungary. He then came back with Thomas Conrad, 2 Germans, and they played a couple of games at Dens. Now, the game that everyone will probably remember him was the 2-0 win against Manchester City. The game I seem to remember him more was we played Hearts. I think it was maybe the midweek after the Man City game. And he scored twice. I think he maybe came on as a sub at half time or in the second half, and he scored twice, and one of them was a free kick, and it was an absolute belter. And he was really, really good in that game. Now, Dundee fans have learned their lesson now, I think, but they should have learned their lesson from the year before when we done a similar signing, and it was Carlo Monte, and he had scored barrel loads of goals in the juniors. He had previously played for Morton, I think maybe another team as well in the higher leagues, but he scored a barrel load of goals for, I think, maybe Pollock juniors. John Brim took a punt on him, and everyone was dead excited about him, scored a few goals in pre-season, and then he was totally shite. So we should have learned our lesson on him. Luka Tankulic came in and he scored maybe 3 or 4 goals that season. One of them at Tannadice, one of them against Aberdeen, I think, at Dens, and that was about it. And then the year after, he lasted a month or something, and then his contract was ripped up. And I think a lot of Dundee fans will remember him scoring more goals in liquid than in the football. So that is my number 3 is Luka Tankulic. So who's your runner-up?
My runner-up is Aaron Cool. He was only United for, I think he was at United for half a year. He signed on loan for us from Reading, and there was a big hype about signing this boy because Reading had just turned down a $2 million bid from Man City. This is when Man City had just been bought over from one of their Qatari owners. And they're like, oh my God, £2 million rejected, this boy must be good. Imagine paying £2 million for an 18-year-old or whatever it was, how old he was at the time. And he signed for us and he was woeful. Absolutely terrible. How Man City thought he was worth $2 million was beyond me. I think he started a few games and then got dropped, and that was it for him at United. And then that's basically been his career since. He went back to Reading, went out on loan, I think, to another few lower league English clubs, and that's where he's been ever since, playing in the lower leagues of England. So non-league, I should add. Yeah, Aaron Cool, he was a very disappointing signing, considering all the hype he had, and so he's my number 2.
Okay. Number 2 for me, and again I do think this is maybe a wee bit harsh, is Scott Allan. Now, he came in at Dundee on loan from, I think it was Celtic, and a couple of years previously he had a brilliant season in the Championship for Hibs, which obviously then Rangers tried to sign him. He never went to Rangers because Hibs wouldn't sell him to a direct rival, and then he went to Celtic in the Premier League at the time. Never played too much for Celtic the first year he was there. Went away on loan to, I think it was maybe Rotherham in his second year, and then we got him on loan. Lasted half the season and then got recalled and sent out on loan Hibs again. Now, I say it's harsh because we did see in flashes what Scott Allan was about, but we didn't see enough of it. He was injured a lot. He was probably played out of position a lot. I thought he kind of got played off the left. His best position's obviously through the middle. And just as we were starting to see the best of him, I thought, was when he got whipped and he got taken back and put away on loan to Hibs in the deal that we got fucking truly shafted in when Jack Henry got sold and ended up with Simon Murray on loan from Hibs, and Dundee got the worst end of the deal that day. But yeah, Simon Murray's my number 2, although a wee bit harsh. Who is the April monthly top 5 underwhelming signing that tops your list, Jack?
I think it's probably going to come as no surprise. Number 1, Eiji Kawashima. Japan made 76 appearances for Japan when we signed him. And obviously, as we discussed earlier, Japan are no mugs. He came in, massive fanfare. We signed him in October, I think, and we never actually got him until January or February due to paperwork issues. So we finally signed him, and he comes in and he's terrible. He done absolutely nothing for us. The whole team was a joke, to be fair, and with a better team, he might have been a better player, but he was, for the hype, for making 76 appearances for Japan, he ended up playing at multiple World Cups, like clearly a good goalkeeper, and he was shite. And then he left us after us getting relegated and goes on to, I think, win the French Cup with Strasbourg. He goes on to another World Cup with Japan, ends up making 95, 96 appearances for Japan. Crazy. Obviously just didn't work out for him at United, but for being such a well-known goalkeeper at the time, the fact we signed him and he was absolutely terrible makes him a number 1 pick for me.
Fair enough. Was it Kawashima or Kanikachiba? That was one of the jokes going around at the time. So yeah, number 1 for you, Kawashima. Number 2 for me. Number 1 for me. Second time round, Lee Griffiths. Now, obviously, the first time he was at Dundee, he scored a barload of goals and everyone loved him. He went away off to Wolves, subsequently then Hibs, Celtic. Came back to us on loan from Celtic. James McPake signed him. And I thought, brilliant. Him and Cummins, we've got Danny Mullen as well, Sheridan. But him and Cummins especially, the two of them know where the back of the net is. If we're going to be poor at the back, we'll at least have plenty of firepower going forward in the other direction. Charlie Arman behind, Max Anderson, Jordan Medee, John Byrne, Paul McMullen, Luke McCowan. Well, the makings of a good team here, and he just wasn't up to it. He was finished at that level. Every time he would hit any sort of good run of performance within a match, he'd break down and go off injured. He'd then be out for a couple of weeks, and yeah, it just didn't turn out to be the best. He's obviously these issues, and then he's went away and played lower leagues in Australia. So yeah, mine's is Lee Griffiths. So for yourself, it was 1 Kawashima, 2 Cool, 3 Demel, 4 Birigiti, and 5 So. And for myself, 1 Griffiths, 2 Allen, 3 Tankulic, 4 Smith, and 5 Colker.
Any dishonourable mentions?
1 was Caballero in his second spell, and obviously I was only young at the time again, but obviously his first spell he was this superstar, and he came back after about a year. He got made redundant in the administration season. I don't think he actually had a team for a year, and he came back and Jim Duffy brought him back, and he was overweight, unfit obviously. He just didn't hit the heights that he did the first time. So yeah, probably Caballero. Have you got any yourself?
I've got a few, mate. I've got Mark McNulty, I've got James Keatons, Fraser Fivey, Alan Campbell, Peter Pollitt, and the player was signed because his brother was good, Rodney Schneider.
Rodney Schneider. Lasted 1 match, did he not?
He didn't even play a match, I don't think.
I'm pretty sure he played 1 game.
Oh, he maybe did, I don't know. But he left after a week or something. Crazy.
What happened with that again?
Nobody knows, mate. I honestly don't have a clue. But we signed him because his brother was obviously Wesley Schneider, and he was playing at the top level. So, you know what, his brother must be pretty good.
Because I'm pretty sure I remember something about it was like he was homesick or something. Obviously you're homesick after a month, that's not great.
Yeah, I don't know, but he never made it, obviously. That was very disappointing.
A couple of years later, I think, we got the boy, maybe not even a couple of years later, it was maybe a year later, we signed the boy Jordi Thijsse or something like that. Big Dutch striker. And he was out in the papers 5 minutes after signing saying that he was homesick and Dundee isn't quite like Amsterdam and everything. You're like, well, fucking no shit. You know, do your homework before you come over here.
Yeah, I don't get that with players, honestly.
Yeah, bizarre. But that is our list and dishonourable mentions. We've obviously got 2 more monthly top 5s to come before the end of the season, so stay tuned for them. But that is the end of the podcast. If you could listen to us, or subscribe to us, should I say, through our social media channels. On Twitter we are at SandemanSTPod, on Instagram we are at The Sandeman Street Pod, and on YouTube we are at The Sandeman Street Podcast. So give us a like, subscribe, all that jazz. Thank you very much as always, and have a great weekend. Cheers.